I think Tesla said it best when he said, to understand the universe, we have to think in terms of frequency versus matter. Everyone's thinking about matter, chemical reactions and stuff, but it's really about frequency. If you're in victimhood, anger, complaint, you attract those people. And people like us make them feel uncomfortable. It's like a magnet. It's kind of pushing them away. Instead of putting so much effort into chasing what you want, put that effort into becoming the type of person that would attract that. So when you think of like your dream girl, it's like, all right, what if you actually find her? What if you catch up to her? It doesn't mean she's gonna want you. Instead, work on becoming the person where a woman like her would seek you out. That was drilled into my head at a young age by watching Fight Club. We work jobs that we hate to buy things we don't need to impress people we don't like. Because I was ambitious as a young person, like, oh, if I work hard, I'll be able to buy the cool car and the this and that, and have the things and the clothes. And that whole movie completely changed my whole paradigm. Like, what is the end goal?
Jason Stewart, what's up, man?
What's up, bro? Are we live?
We're live.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Thanks for coming down. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So we met through J Pro at Louder.
We were both on his podcast, Louder.
Yep. Downstairs in the same building. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
11/11. My birthday is 1/11.
1/11. Mine's 11/11.
What?
Yeah.
And we're in building 11/11.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
What a way to start the podcast.
Yeah, and funny. It's funny you say that because I've seen a lot of weird synchronicities lately, like that, and yeah, so it's funny.
That's crazy. Yeah, I guess my birthday's like in a week and a half or something.
Yeah, happy almost birthday.
Thank you, man.
So tell the audience a little bit about you. So, you run a fight promotion. Yeah. You're an entrepreneur. You are in the car rental business. Yeah. Real estate, which it's funny because I was looking at buying a plot of land, and the first listing I looked at was your listing, and I messaged you on Instagram.
That's crazy.
I was like, yo, is this you? You're like, yeah.
I got 3 acres for sale in Chula Vista in the industrial zone where you could do a lot of cool stuff with it. You could you can grow marijuana there. You can make like a paintball field if you wanted. It's on kind of a steep slope. You could use it for storage. You could use it for parking trucks if you could figure out how to park them on that steep slope, which would require grading or building some type of ramp or something.
And what about the one, I think it was out near Miramar, right? It was like 3/4 acre lot or something. The one that I messaged you about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was probably a listing that I had. I also have 10 acres in Joshua Tree.
Nice.
That I own. Yeah. So I'm looking to sell it because I've come to the conclusion that I'm never going to get around, or it's going to be a long time before I get around to do anything with that. I'm just too busy. I have too many projects. I'll just give it to someone to run the project on. They can lease it from me or partner or whatever.
You ever think of doing like glamping? I know that's super popular.
We had ideas to do a airport strip, where you could actually bring in jets and private jets and helicopters.
Yeah.
Burning Man art storage where you could go look at the art kind of in between, go work on it in between the different Burning Mans and then take it out because it's kind of on the way.
Right.
We've thought of doing the glamping, the RV storage, chicken farm. Remember when the eggs were up? Everyone was like, oh, yeah. You got to get chickens out there because the egg price is ridiculous. So we've had a ton of crazy ideas. Skate park.
Yeah.
Doing a skate park out there.
In the desert.
It's beautiful land from what I understand. I have a friend who's been out there a couple times already since I bought it. I've actually never been there, but I've been to Joshua Tree before. And it's something about it's very magical. And it's real close to that sculpture called Transmissions. It's like this big, it's like a head and some hands, and it's very like beautiful, spiritual type of location.
Right. Yeah. There's something so serene too about the desert because you're not so far from like LA or Riverside or San Diego, but it's out there and you're just like no light pollution. You can see the stars.
Well, a lot of people have done like those igloo dome type of things.
Yeah.
And so that's an option to do there as well.
Crazy.
Have like, the whole where the top is clear and you get to look at the stars there. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So tell me about Epic Fighting.
Epic Fighting is a fight promotion. I started in 2010. I was inviting people to my house to work out as I was in real estate, and I was using my experience in the fitness training realm as a give back. So most of the people who lived a life, I'm very big at modeling people who are doing things that you want to do, living a type of life that you want to live. Like I don't want to take advice from someone who's not hitting the goals that I want to hit.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those people would talk about giving back. Doesn't have to be financially. It doesn't have to be time, but it has to be something, right? And so I was like, I know what it'll be. I'll do a fitness training free workout. Anybody can join. Anyone in the community, any one of my friends can come and I'll take them through a free full body workout Monday through Thursday. And a guy who came by invited another guy who invited another guy. And he was like, hey, you're into MMA. At the time I was, training martial arts. I was training my daughter. I was putting a lot of effort and time into training her, and she was competing in different types of tournaments and stuff. And he said, you have experience in real estate. You have experience in a lot of people in the fight gyms, the coaches and the fighters. I'm doing a fight promotion in Albuquerque. After that, I want to do one in San Diego. Maybe you can partner up with me. I said, that sounds like a horrible idea. That sounds ridiculous. Then he came to a few more workouts. He was aspiring to be a Navy SEAL. He's a Navy guy. I never followed up with him. I wish I could find him. If he's listening to this, please reach out to me because I haven't talked to him since.
Yeah.
But he was really a lot of the core inspiration for me starting it. About the third time he came over and asked to partner with him, at this period of time in my life, I was reading 4 Hour Work Week on repeat. Like I had it on audio. I was reading the book, and it was just like completely flipping my ways of thinking on so many things.
Yeah.
And one of the things was start a muse, like a side business on something that you're passionate about, because if you don't have a great interest, a great amount of experience in it, or a great kind of attachment to it, you're going to quit.
Yeah.
Because people quit things too easily. So there has to be a little bit bigger of a why on why you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And but the book said most people have no idea what their passion is. They say stuff that sounds good. My passion is to save the whales or clean the oceans or kids in Africa, whatever it is. But when you look at their free time, they're not doing anything towards it. He's like, if you want to know what someone's passionate about, follow their free time. So I started looking at my free time. All right, when I'm not working and, what am I doing? I'm training my daughter in martial arts, training myself in martial arts. The only sport I ever want to watch was combat sports. I don't know who's in the Super Bowl. I don't know who's in the World Series. So I was like, all right, something related to MMA. And as I'm trying to figure out how to create what he calls a muse or like a side hustle type of business around it, this guy keeps asking me to do a promotion with him. And I keep telling him that sounds like the worst idea ever. It's going to take up too much time. I'm busy with real estate and kids. The third time he asked me, I said, oh, shoot, maybe this could be that thing. It is related to MMA. I mean, it's a MMA fight promotion.
Yeah.
And by the time he did his first event in Albuquerque, I had already built this business up, and it looked like a big deal, and we were promoting it. It looked really impressive. The website looked cool. The social media looked cool. We're promoting the fights, and everything that he thought he would add value in, I had already done. So he's like, I don't really know how to add value. It looks like you've got this. And I'm an extremist. So I within 2 weeks, the company was built up. People were, I'm already putting fights together, the whole thing. I was the matchmaker for the first event.
Right.
And he was just like, good luck. If you need any help, let me know. And we crushed it on our first show. And back then we used to do one every 6 weeks.
Wow. Damn. Every 6 weeks is crazy.
Every 6 weeks we would do a show. So we were doing a lot. It was like never take a break. And then since then, we made a few changes. We put our sponsors on a monthly payment plan, commit to a year.
Nice.
That's
smart.
That turned us from are we going to break even this show to profitability?
Nice.
Because we weren't chasing checks and people sponsoring one show and taking a show off. That was very difficult.
Yeah.
You want to sponsor the show. We put your company on everything. The next show you say, I'm going to be out of town, but count me in for the next one. I can't take you off the canvas. You know what I mean? Right. I can't take you off the backdrop. I have to print a whole new one now because you're. So once we got people to commit to a year, and then we decided to do it every 3 months instead of 6 months. So
sorry to cut you off, but they probably got a much better return on their investment
100%.
too, because they're consistently advertising.
And that's what people, I was surprised how many small businesses didn't understand advertising.
Yeah.
With advertising, it's a repetition game. Back in the day when we were kids, if someone saw your logo or your business or heard your jingle or your slogan 7 times, it was kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Now that number is something like 16 to 20 something times if you're lucky, because you're just getting hit with so much. And so it's like putting a billboard up for a day and then 2 months later putting up for a day. But if the billboard stays up for a year, all of a sudden it's it's a cumulative effect.
Yeah.
It's not like you were getting 1 lead a week. It's no, you were getting 1 lead a week and then 2 and then 4 and then 8 and then 16, and it grows exponentially.
Yeah.
So our retention rate went from like 50% to like 90%. At one point, we didn't have one sponsor that didn't continue after the year. It's like we had never even heard of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so once you're on for a year, we figured out a way to add value to you, which is different from every, I have a guy right now that wants a sponsor, and he's like, please don't give me business. When he first talked about it, I was like, you probably just want to get a permanent VIP table with no advertising because you don't want business. He's like, no. I want nothing but brand recognition now. I want to turn this, I don't need more business, but I want to turn this into where people are buying t-shirts and it's like a lifestyle thing and hats with my logo. Now it's all about the branding, the social media. So for him, it's like, okay, you don't just need a table. You need your logo on everything. And so we figure out, we had a conversation like, if he has an event, we'll get some models to come out there, and we'll get, we have some fighters that are also beautiful girls that fight. He's like, that's exactly what we need for this company. And if you could put that together and have them come up to Sacramento, I'll pay for them to come. And I'm like, that's easy for us. But for the average person, that's like a huge value add.
Yeah. And what kind of business is he in?
So he takes big rig trucks, like the ones that drive across country and stuff.
Yeah.
He said the average person who buys them, they spend 6 figures buying them. They cost as much as an exotic car. People spend $100,000-$300,000 just to buy it.
Yep.
He said no one ever buys it without putting at least $50,000 into customizing it. And so he had his son run with that division of his company, and his son is crushing it. And so people will give him $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 just to pimp out these trucks. To put the paint on the side, to customize the grill, and it's a big thing for people want their big rig truck, which they spend more money on these trucks than they spend at their house, than the average person would ever spend at a job. I mean, for some of them, it's their home and their work.
Yeah.
And so it needs to be a reflection of them as a person. And so if they're going to spend $200,000 on the truck, they're going to spend an extra $50,000 to make it theirs.
Right. Right. That's pretty cool. So what else do you do? So I know you have the exotic cars.
Yeah. So a lot of the businesses just came from kind of like necessity or from seeing a demand in the market by way of the business. It was almost like vertical integration. So the first spin-off business that we started a long time ago was Epic Promo Girls. So that was like, the goal for Epic Fighting was to make it sexy and classy. We want women there with the nice cars, and it's fancy and it's cool. And so we got known for like, wow, the most beautiful women are at these events.
Right.
And so I started getting texts and calls from my friends who own businesses. Can I get some Epic girls? Everyone would just naturally call them Epic girls. Can I get some Epic girls for my grand opening? Can I get some Epic girls for the unveiling of the new Lamborghini? Can I get some Epic girls for our corporate party? We're doing a poker tournament, and can we get some Epic girls for this? And I had lunch with this guy who, I don't know how he reached out to me, but he was like a producer for like Showtime and HBO and stuff. And this was after our 4th event, which was one of our biggest events. Like by our 4th event, we were like turning away tons of people. Not everyone could fit in the room. And it kind of, a lot of people heard about us through that. And by way of that, heard about me. And I was asked to be on, radio, TV and stuff like that. Podcasts were kind of new back then. This was 2010.
Wow.
And he just wanted to have lunch with me. And when I told him that whole piece about the models, he said, so what's more profitable, your model staffing agency or your fight promotion? I was like, what's a model staffing agency? He just like, dude. You
don't even know the business you're in.
You're leaving so much money on the table. I was just connecting him with the people, And so, we became like the 2nd largest model staffing agency in San Diego within like 6 months.
Wow.
And so the current business that we have is the exotic cars. And so every event we would have exotic cars, and these were usually friends of mine cars. It's like, I'm going to give you some tickets, pull your car up. And it just became more and more of a hassle. They want to show up late or they want to leave early. And it's like, no, like we have to park it. It's hard to get the car back there. It's hard to get it out. Like it's in a very special place. It's at the resort next to the water fountain, a place where cars don't typically go.
Yeah.
We got the models taking pictures with it, whatever. And so eventually I was like, I'm just going to buy these cars myself. it was kind of an excuse to buy every dream car that I ever wanted. And we rent them out to people. So
do you do it on Turo or do you do it on your own? Okay.
Yeah. Turo's cool because they have their own insurance. And
dude, I had a car stolen on Turo. And
wait, really?
Yeah, that I rented out as a little. So get this. So
wait, did you rent the car or was your car?
It was my car that I bought strictly for the purpose of renting it.
And it got stolen.
It's kind of a crazy story. So 2020. Everything's shut down. I'm bored, right? But I know that rental cars, there's a massive shortage because they're not getting new cars. So I'm like, Turo's a pretty good business model. I see it all the time. I know some people that make good money with it. I'm going to buy a car. I'm going to find a good deal on a police car. And I'm going to rent it out on Turo because they're cheap, but they're like, you can get an Explorer, which would be $40,000, $30,000 around this time for a newer one, or you can get a lightly used one with like 50,000 miles for like 14,000. So, and then do a little work to it, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, fuck it. I flew out. Bless you. I flew out to this little town called Redwood Falls, Minnesota. Mm-hmm. I flew into St. Paul, I think, and then the dealership picked me up. Cool little small Midwestern town. Picked me up, took me to their little town, bought the car, and I drove it all the way to Oregon, then all the way down back to San Diego. Rented out on Turo, and this thing was going, always booked. And I was making like $100 a day for a rental, which on a car that I just paid, I think $13,500 for.
Yeah, that's great.
Great deal. That's with the warranty and everything, right? Mm-hmm. So, and it was awesome. It was literally a black on black old, not even old. It was like a 20. You remember? Were you around for that? No, Don was, because Don was supposed to go with me on that trip.
Just a few years old.
Yeah, and it's nice, but it looks enough like a police car because it has the wheels and the lights and stuff still, but it's enough of like an SUV. We took it on a couple road trips and it was great. But anyways, so one day I rented out to this guy and he's like, oh, we're going to be down in National City in Chula Vista, whatever. And then the next day, the day before he was supposed to bring it back, he extends the rental. He's like, hey, do you mind if I keep it another day? Cool, take it. Yeah. Just do it through the app, whatever. So he's like, cool. So he extends the rental. And then the next day, same thing. And then one more day, same thing. So I'm like, it's a little weird, but I do that. When I travel, I'll get a rental for a couple days and then extend, whatever. So I didn't really think much of it. And then the day that we're supposed to pick up the car, he texts me and he's like, hey, I'll be there in, 30 minutes. And then he texts me again, like 10 minutes later. He's like, hey, the car got stolen. What do you mean the car got stolen? So I called him. He's like, yeah, I don't know. I went out there and the car's not there. I'm like, okay, well, where'd you park it? He's like, I parked it in this parking lot of this apartment complex. I'm like, okay, so you think it's stolen? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you don't think that maybe it got towed? He's like, I didn't really think of that, but no, I bet it got stolen. So something's just like not adding up, right? So I'm like, all right. And then I drive down to where he was, and I just asked him for the address, didn't tell him I was going, and drove around and got out and looked. There was some broken glass in the area where he said he parked it, but his story wasn't adding up. And usually when somebody's story isn't adding up, something's off. They're probably lying. So I just knew something was up. And so I, whatever, nothing I can do. Call the insurance through Turo, and they're like, okay, cool, we're going to open up a claim. And they're like, what do you think happened with the car? I'm like, well, we're super close to Tijuana. It's a police car. It's 4-wheel drive. I bet it's in Mexico. Like, that's pretty common here, you know. And they're like, oh, well, I bet we'll find the car within 30 days. I'm like, okay, good luck. But, these were Mexican guys and they were with their family. And, something just felt off about it. Yeah. And the kid that rented it was super nice. But some of the people that were with him, it was just like two different groups. Yeah. And I could be wrong, but I think they probably rented it with the intention to take it to TJ because... So I get paid out, right? Like 45 days later, they pay me out. I make like $6,000 on the car. They paid me out because the car went up in value because of COVID. Yeah. So they pay me out. I'm happy. And then a couple months later, we get a call from California Highway Patrol. And they're like, hey, we have your vehicle and I had signed the title over to the insurance. Like, it was no longer my car.
Right.
But apparently they never registered anything with the DMV. They never did anything. So I get a call from CHP, and they're like, hey, we have your car. It's in like San Ysidro or somewhere. We found your car. Come get it. And they're being super short with me. I'm like, well, it's not my car anymore. I, explain. They're like, you have to come get it. It's registered to you. You need to come get it. Like, I'm not coming getting that car because I got paid out. I don't want to come get it. And then, I already got paid. I'm not trying to get greedy here. Like, that's not my car anymore. So good luck. Mm-hmm. But they found it in Mexico. And apparently, they found it in Tijuana and then brought it back over.
That's interesting. They found it and brought it back.
I know. That's why I was confused, because I was like, oh, CHP. So you guys found it here. And they're like, no, it looks like it was found in Tijuana. And now they brought it over here. So
interesting. So I had a Ferrari that got stolen, not through a rental or anything. It's crazy. I had 4 claims in like a matter of a year, and I've never had a claim in my life. But also statistically, I never had more than 1 car in my life, and ended up buying like 10 cars in a year. So chances of having a claim is higher, bad luck, whatever. But a Lamborghini got totaled, a Ferrari got stolen, a Maybach got crashed, another Lamborghini got like a fender bender, and
all through Turo?
None of it. None of it was through a rental.
While you were driving?
No. Well, stolen was just stolen. It was like in my parking lot. My friend was driving the Lamborghini. He just got hit. 100% her fault, but insurance still has to pay out because no one has enough insurance to cover Lamborghini apparently. And so they were giving me such a hard time because they saw that some of these cars had been on Turo before. But I'm like, this had nothing to do with rent. Like, I had one incident with a renter, and Turo paid it out. It was just like they hit something and broke the.
It's Liberty Mutual, right? Is their insurance company?
I don't remember, but they just paid it out. It wasn't a big deal. I paid the deductible. Yeah. But other than that, the 4 claims were like all not renter related at all. But it didn't look good. But I had a Ferrari got stolen, and then I started putting on social media, and it got shared on other car accounts because I was tagging other car accounts, and they started sharing it, and then they spotted it in TJ, and then they spotted it.
Oh, no. Well, it's a pretty easy car to spot then.
It was a silver. They called it the silver bullet. It was a silver Ferrari with the black wheels and the black interior, and I'd never seen another one like it. It was a pretty rare mix. And so, and then it got spotted like in Sinaloa or something like that, like a few days later. Yeah. And so I tried calling the police, and they were like, call us back on Thursday. Like, wait, what? Like,
in Mexico, you're saying?
No. So when I first saw it in TJ, I called the police like, hey, there's like a Costco down there. It was in the parking lot. Yeah. Like, guys, like, I think, I don't know what you guys would do, but if you act fast, like, you might be able to get it back. Like, I don't, like, at this point, I'd had too many claims. I was like, I'm hoping to just get the car back. I don't even want to do the insurance stuff anymore. They had been trying to come up with excuses not to pay me. Yeah. So I don't want to go through that stress. Like, and it was like a Tuesday. They're like, okay, well, call us back on Thursday when so-and-so was in. I was like, you guys really have no motivation to get this car
Well, it's
back.
in TJ too. Like, so what happened? You ever get it back or no?
No. And thank God they paid it out. All of them, they paid out all the claims. Huh. But it was stressful. Like, they wouldn't pay me for like 8 months, a year.
Yeah, they try to push it out.
Yeah, have to do like deposition and swear under oath and all this stuff. It's just like, oh God. And they're coming up with excuses. Like the Lamborghini, they were like, well, he shouldn't have been speeding. I'm like, who said he was speeding? He got hit by someone. Thank goodness I had a tracker in the car. Yeah. The tracker showed the speed. I was like, you guys are dirty. You guys just came up with that and said that he was speeding? Yep. Literally, he was going 6 miles under the speed limit. Yeah. Like, thank God we had that proof, because they were like just thinking of reasons to not pay out. You know?
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, it's a cool business model. I feel like it's kind of risky when you get into the higher tier. Like, what do you think? Renting it out?
I mean, for me, it's not my most profitable business at all. It's not something that I put like, real estate is kind of number one, and epic fighting is up there. Yeah. But I wouldn't be doing it if it didn't give me access to cars that like excite me. Right. If it's not like some type of an exotic car, then I wouldn't be excited about it. So I for sure. Yeah. And the other thing I like about the higher end cars is I like meeting those types of people. The people who can drop $1,000 a day on a car. It's like, all right, what do you do? Like, And I usually, when I have conversations with those people, I learn something. So I remember I had one, it was like an old Honda or Toyota or something that I kind of put on for someone else. I was like, all right, I'll add it to my fleet and we'll split the profit, whatever. And it was someone that we went above and beyond, personally drove them back to the airport when they didn't even pay like extra for like, whatever.
Yeah.
And they left like our first not 5-star review. And left, I was just like,
there's always going to be a Karen out there.
It's always going to be a Toyota guy. Like the Lamborghini guys never do that.
Yeah.
Like, there's like, unless you do something to really piss them off, like they would rather not leave a review than to be petty and leave like a 3-star review or something like that. And I just couldn't believe that these people, out of all the people, I think it was like a 4-star review, but I was like crushed.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
At that time, we had only had 5-star reviews.
God, 4-star review is the dumbest. It's like, what? A 4-star review, and usually they're like, oh yeah, everything was great, we really liked it, but there was this one thing that we kind of, it's like, why not?
They're
just
like, everything
leave a
was
5-star
5 stars
review?
at this one thing. Well, then round up.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I found was like, I learned it in real estate. So like my first year in real estate, I like, broke a lot of records because I had sold like, I forgot what it was, 17 or 18 homes. It was like a lot, especially for like a rookie.
Yeah.
But they were all like $80,000 price range, little condos and stuff like that. And it was
in San Diego.
Yeah.
Oh man, now those things are probably worth way more.
Oh yeah. But I remember that was kind of like my niche. I'm 24 years old. I'm in the real estate market. I could relate to these people that,
Yeah. Like first-time home buyers or what?
A lot of first-time home buyers. And every deal was like putting together 6 pieces to a puzzle. It's like, all right, if we go through this program, we can get your down payment. If we go through this program, they'll help pay your taxes. And if we can go through this program, you get, first-time home buyer. Well, they'll pay like, the other, out of your 20% down payment, we got one program for the 3%, another program for the 17%. I remember I helped one girl, Luz, who's still a friend of mine to this day. I've helped her buy and sell several properties since then, and I actually bought one property off of her myself.
Yeah.
And her first property that I helped her buy, which became a stepping stone for a lot of other ones, there was 6 different loans and grants for her to buy this. I think it was like $170,000 condo.
Right.
6, like all put together. And we could not sell that thing to save our lives because all 6 of them had to be fulfilled. The market had kind of like went through an adjustment. But it was like, imagine how much work it is to get 6 different grants and loans approved. I mean, it was just, then I realized like, oh, when you work on higher end properties, they're either writing a check for the whole thing or they're putting 20% or more down.
Right.
And they're getting a loan for the rest. The credit is great. There's no this and that. They require way less work and they're way more grateful.
Yeah.
Versus the people that you bend over backwards who's getting the, 100,000, 200,000. They're like, you do everything right. And then there's a little bit of turbulence, which there's no such thing as a real estate transaction without turbulence.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, I'll think about it if someone wants to buy, sending him your way. What?
Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
Same thing with the cars.
Okay.
It's like never get a bad review from someone renting a McLaren or a Bentley or a Maybach.
Right.
Typically, like it's just a higher caliber. These people are typically they've become successful because they have higher standards, and people who have higher standards for themselves are typically vibrating at a higher frequency.
Yeah. So let's talk about frequency and stuff. I'm glad that you went there because I'm a big believer in some of the stuff that we can't see, right? Energy is huge. Everybody's got a vibrational, meter on where they are. You obviously vibrate super high. I try to as well.
Thank you.
What do you think about energy? I mean, just in terms of how people show up and in business and stuff like that. Because what you seem like you're saying is people who have good energy, people who are doing positive things, aren't throwing negative energy into things, right? So the higher quality customers, maybe they're vibrating higher and they have their focus in a different direction. What do you think?
No, I completely agree. I think Tesla said it best when he said, to understand the universe, we have to think in terms of frequency versus matter. Everyone's thinking about matter and chemical reactions and stuff, but it's really about frequency. Like this table has more space than it does solid matter. Yeah. Like there's more space in between the atoms than there are atoms. And it's just, this is a certain frequency of it vibrating. The experiments where they'll put a piano, there'll be a piano in the room and they strike a C chord on a guitar and the same C chord on the piano will start to vibrate because it's tuned to that frequency. The same thing happens with humans. Like if you're in victimhood, anger, complaint, you attract those people.
Yeah.
And people like us make them feel uncomfortable, so they will, it's like magnets on the
when they
side.
push it,
it's kind of pushing them away. Like, what? I can't complain about my life and talk about, oh, woe was me, because you guys won't have it. You guys won't want to stay in the same room. You guys will look at it like, what are you talking about? What are you complaining about? Go fix it, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's the more you can work on your vibration. I used to, Jay Pro, who was just in here, he used to always talk about, logistics and plans and like, if I could do this, I'll make more money. If I could do this. It's like, bro, you're doing it backwards. You're putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Get on the frequency of having the wealth, of having the abundance, of having the health, of having the relationships that you want. And then they'll come into play.
Yeah.
So it works both ways. Like if you make a big business deal and you make some money, you're vibrating there, and you're more likely for you to go make another business deal. Your confidence is up.
Yeah.
Your vibration is up. You were able to close a deal and build a rapport with someone on that caliber. Now you're vibrating on that, and you could more likely to do it again. But what people get that. People understand that. Like, I feel motivated, I feel confident, and all these hormonal changes when that happens. You get a raise at your job or whatever. Like, literally, like your testosterone goes up.
Right.
Like different things change in you. There's monkeys where if the alpha dies and everyone's like, well, you should probably be the leader of us now, their nose completely goes through this change, or like different types of, like all the complete hormone change, and you could always spot who's the alpha because it looks completely different from all the rest.
Damn.
But they go through that change because it's like, now you're the leader. And it's like, oh shoot, I got to step up.
Yeah.
And people understand that, but what people don't understand is you can give yourself the feeling beforehand to make the thought a reality, to make the dream come to fruition. And that's what a lot of successful people understand. We call it manifesting now, and it's a fancy word, but it's 100% true. Like, the more you can get into that vibration of having that person in your life, of being on that trip where you want to go, of having the money. The problem with money is people have big money goals. I want to have $100,000 in my bank account. I want to make $100,000 a year. I want to be a millionaire. I want to have a net worth of $1 million. What they fail to do, a reason why a lot of people don't hit those goals, is they fail to put a feeling beside it, because the money itself doesn't really give you a feeling. It's what the possibilities it creates that gives you a feeling.
Yeah.
So instead of saying $100,000, you say, I'm going to be driving this car. And you picture yourself holding that steering wheel and driving around that car and how people look at you and what it feels like to get out of that car. Yeah. Or I'm going to go on this trip.
Right.
Or, my family gets to eat at these restaurants and I'm not stressed out about it.
Yeah.
And you start putting like a why behind the why, and actually putting something tangible, because money itself is like, I know people with millions of dollars that never do anything exciting. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I know people without a lot of money that live a really full life. But money is energy, and this energy can create a whole different reality for you.
Right.
Like if someone just deposited $100 million in your bank account right now, it's like your whole life can change instantly. Yeah. Like the way we travel is going to change. The people we hang out with can change. The things we have access to. I've always wanted to go to Dubai or Fiji or New Zealand, and now we're going to create memories. And once you start tuning into that, then you start getting more excited of what that $1 million means. Right. Yeah. But so many people just have a monetary goal. Yeah. And it's like, all right, and then what? Right.
Well, you're saying like attracts like. And what I really like about that is most people know this by when they're really trying to be in a relationship, right? They so badly want to find their soulmate. They so badly want to go meet this person. And that never happens if they're going out there and searching and trying to force anything, relationship, money, business, friendships, whatever it is.
Women can smell desperation.
Yeah.
The universe can too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So like my girlfriend, like when I met her, and we've been together for, 4 years now, and we got a baby on the way. And
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
but before that, right? Like I had tried to force so many things, and then it was when I let go and was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna work on myself, and I got super happy and super changed my vibration, and all of a sudden we just lined up, and it happened so frictionless. You know,
instead of putting so much effort into chasing what you want, put that effort into becoming the type of person that would attract that.
Right.
So when you think of like your dream girl, it's like, all right, what if you actually find her? What if you catch up to her? What if you end up at a place where she is and then you get to run up to her? It doesn't mean she's going to want you.
Yeah.
Instead, work on becoming the person where she, you know, a woman like her would seek you out. You know?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with everything. There is the kind of like the forced manifestation, but then there's the attraction manifestation where you just kind of like, you don't overthink the how.
Yeah.
But you stay in tune with the why and the who, like the who you need to become, what type of person you need to become. And there's tons of exercises, and I find myself slacking all the time and then getting back on track and doing these exercises. And every time I'm consistent with these exercises, like magic starts happening.
Yeah.
And I fall off my game all the time, like anyone else. But, you know, there's the vision boards, there's the goals. There you go. I love it. There's the writing down the vision of the future you, where you actually write down in description who this
Dan
person
Fulkerson.
is.
So do you know Dan Fulkerson?
He's a good friend of mine.
So
he's a sponsor for Epic Fighting.
Is he? Okay, cool. So Dan, do you know about Dan's letter to, I think it was a letter, was it a letter to himself or a letter to his best friend?
Letter to himself, like back in 5th grade, so who he was going to become.
Yeah.
So he's from Idaho, doesn't have any ties to San Diego. And when he's in like 5th grade, 6th grade, whatever, he wrote this letter to himself as like a school project they had everybody do.
Yeah.
And he said all of this stuff about, you know, here's my address, this is where I live. And it was like in San Diego, and he had a business, and he does like describe literally his life now.
Yeah.
And him and I looked, and he actually found that letter. And I punched in the address that he had put in the letter. It was like some fictional address.
Yeah.
And it's like a block and a half from his house.
That's insane.
Insane, right? Like how, I mean, I remember him and I, when we found that, we were like sitting there like,
what?
Dude, what the hell? So this manifestation stuff is real.
Yeah, I had a vision board, and I put on there, you know, I'm just cutting stuff out of magazine and added it on there. And I was like, okay, I definitely want an SUV. What's a really nice SUV? And it was like, we found a silver Range Rover, put it on there. And then I was like, I was really into watches in my 20s, you know?
Yeah.
So the watch that I wanted was it was a Bentley Breitling watch. It was like Breitling Bentley edition. And I wanted the one with the Havana back, which was like this kind of brown back. But the only one I could find in the magazine had the white back. It was like the pearl or whatever. So I was like, all right, same thing. I'll put it on there. And when I go to get one, I'll get the one with the Havana back, obviously.
Right.
Fast forward, the vision board ends up falling behind the dresser. It's back there for like 6 or 9 months. I hadn't even seen it. I can't even remember what's on there. I've made so many at this point. The mother of my children, who we were living with at the time, I was living with, and she comes home with this car. I was at the dealership just looking, and they let me test drive this car, and like, we have to have it. I was like, absolutely not. Like, we don't need that type of bill. I've heard that those cars have a lot of problems.
Range Rovers?
Yeah. And she just kept pushing it. And next thing you know, we have this car, and it's sitting there. That's back when the economy was going down. After 2008, it might have been 9 or 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Somebody posts up that they're getting rid of the Breitling watch. And I inquire about it. These are $10,000 watches. This person's trying to let it go for, you know, pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
I ask questions about it, and I end up getting the watch. I find the vision board, and I pull it out like I was doing deep cleaning.
Yeah.
Pull it out. It's all dusty. It's been behind the dresser for like 6 or 9 months or whatever. And I look, and the exact same car, which I forgot, that's on there, same year, same color, same interior, is in our driveway, and the exact same watch with the pearl back is in my watch collection.
Yeah.
And it was like the eeriest, spookiest feeling.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like, I didn't even remember that I had put those on there.
It was in your subconscious mind.
It was in the subconscious. And
do you see that Rolex that's on the top of that?
Yeah.
I have that watch now, just with the different color face, but same one.
It's crazy how it works.
And a lot of I'm constantly having to update this thing because things happen all the time. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I had my blue belt on there forever, which I got to update that. But
Gotta get the purple.
but yeah. But you know, it's crazy what happens when we plant seeds in our subconscious mind.
Yeah. So John Assaraf talks about it on actually the movie The Secret. For those of you who've seen The Secret, you've heard this story. But John's he's a local guy here in San Diego. He's a really cool guy.
Josh worked with John, right?
Did you work with John Assaraf?
No, not him. Josh. Where's Josh? Is he here today? No. Anyways.
But he talks about that where he's working in his home office and his son is like sitting on one of his boxes kicking his feet. And he's like, "What's in this box, Dad?" And he's just like, "Oh, those are my vision boards." And he's like, "What's that? What's a vision board?" And he's like, "Oh." So he takes a break. He's like, "It's kind of hard to explain. Let me just show you." And he pulls out, and there's like a bunch of old vision boards that he had. He just threw it in a box when he was moving. And he pulls it out. They had been living in this house for a year and still hadn't finished like all the decorating and all the unpacking. You know, he'd been busy. He was from Canada, just made it to San Diego. And he pulls, on the first vision board that he pulls out, shows all these pictures of the house. Like this dream house that one day he'll move from Canada to San Diego. It's the house he's living in.
Yeah.
He had been living in that house for a year and didn't even know that it was the exact same house that he had on his vision board. He just broke down crying.
Yeah.
In front of his son. Like,
yeah.
You know? Like, you hear stories like that all the time.
Well, it's crazy because I had always, when I was younger, I don't know why, I wanted to go on a private jet. Like, which really, I guess I know why, but I was like obsessed with flying on a private jet, even if it was just once, right? So I had it up on my vision board on that same exact board years ago and went on the jet, went back and looked at some of the videos, and it was literally the same interior, a little different, but
Right.
that was it, you know. It's like, and it makes you think, like, do we live in this holographic universe where we're creating our own reality? Like when you think of the double slit experiment, have you heard of that?
Where they shoot particles through, and then when you observe them, they do one thing, and when you don't observe them, they do another. And the only difference is if you observe. Scientists cannot figure it out. Yeah,
it's like easier way to digest because it's one of the hardest things to like first understand, and then it's even harder to explain to somebody else. But it's like that theory of, you know, if a tree falls in the wood and someone isn't there to hear it, did it really happen? Like, it's almost, you know, in a video game, if this is a video game, right, and you're looking at a character in front of you and you turn this way and now you only see what's in your field of view here, the stuff that was over there dematerializes in the game, right, to save rendering power and whatever. It's like, it basically says that unless you're observing something, things don't exist.
That's crazy.
Which is just like, you know, and that's my maybe hopefully there's some physicist in there that can light me up on that, but the world is not what we were taught it is, I feel like.
Yeah. And when you're talking about frequencies, it's the same thing as if you try to, you know, if you're listening to 90.3, you know, today's hits and hip hop, R&B, whatever, you could be on there all day and never hear a classical song, never hear a country song. Meanwhile, right here in the air amongst us is 97.3 country FM.
Yeah.
It's right there, but you're never going to hear it because we're tuned into 90.3 or 91X. You know, so all of these frequencies are right in front of us. It's just this frequency. And so it's the same thing. Like if you're never on the frequency of that goal or the abundance or whatever, you're never going to hit it. You have to be on the frequency of what that feels like. You have to be vibrating there to get in touch with those people to help make that goal happen, to you know, and the reticular activating system is a perfect example.
Yep.
Like, you know,
the red car theory.
The red car theory.
You know,
pregnant girls see pregnant people. When I remember, you know, I have 3 kids of my own, and every single time that I was having a baby, that's all I saw was pregnant people.
Dude, I was just thinking, because my girlfriend's pregnant, I was just thinking that today on how many, and maybe you just pick up like when somebody slightly looks pregnant because you watch the evolution of it with your partner, but anyways, keep going.
But you're on that frequency now.
Yeah.
You're on the frequency to notice it. When you're looking for a red convertible BMW.
Yep.
All of a sudden they're everywhere. Where were these cars? They were always there.
Yeah.
But you didn't notice it. So you can only tune into what you train your brain subconsciously to tune into, and then all of a sudden consciously you start seeing it all over the place. And the same thing, there's opportunities all around us.
Yes.
You just have to pick one. Well, there's a million opportunities around you at all times. We could look at this table and be like, oh my gosh, this inspires me for an idea. I could do something with this and, connect the dots somehow. And with this table right here, turn it into $1 million business.
Yeah.
But you have to be on the frequency for long enough to make that happen.
Yeah. And what I've noticed is most people, the reason why people don't have the life that they want, right? Because they know what they need to do, really. Like there's actionable steps that they can do to go live the life that they want, but they don't do it because they're not focused on that. They're focused on survival instincts. Right. They're completely flooded with stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, all these things because they're running late on their bills. They think their partner's going to leave them. They're stressed out. So they're not looking for opportunity because opportunity right now isn't going to keep them alive. Getting food on the table, paying the rent so they're not out of a shelter, like those things are, which is why I always harp on, don't go out with the goal of trying to make millions of dollars when you first start a business or you first whatever, right? Start and just get to the point where your bills are paid and you have like 6 months of your living expenses saved up because you don't worry as much about the dumb stuff. And all of a sudden you realize, holy shit, there's an opportunity in front of me the whole time that I was missing because I was so focused on not dying.
Yeah. Like survival mode and abundance mode are opposite ends of the spectrum. And sometimes when you're in survival mode, it is very difficult. You do your vision board, your affirmations, your goal setting, and you have to do it. You have to do it and try to get out of it. But
yeah,
it's difficult when you're getting stuff in the mail saying this is due, that is due, when I'm going to get my money. But it needs to be done. I remember there was a guy who, what company did he start? I think it was Remax or one of the big companies. And he was just like owed everyone money, was like on the verge of bankruptcy and didn't want to answer any phone calls. And everybody was calling him like debt collectors every day. And he decided to just confront it.
Yeah.
He said, I'm going to be doing very well. I hope that you're patient with me. I will be paying you back. It's going to take me some time. Every time I make some money, I'm going to give you a little bit, but I do have to feed myself and my family and, work with me. And a lot of the people respected him for that.
Yeah.
Because most people are just like...
They're ducking him.
Yeah, they're ducking him. And he, instead of going the bankruptcy route, he just confronted everything head on, came up with a plan, kept putting himself into abundance. Instead of that negative energy coming from these collectors, he created a positive relationship with a lot of them.
Yep.
And he eventually paid everyone back and became very successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's energy transmutation, right? Where you take energy and you can, you ever read The Alchemist?
Yes. The Alchemist is by,
Paulo Coelho.
Paulo Coelho. Yeah. Brazilian guy.
Yeah.
It's funny. He wrote that book and it didn't do well.
Really?
He wrote that book. It didn't do well for years. Didn't sell for jack. And then for some reason, it had like a resurgence. Like a couple people read it, and it was very transformational to them. And they kind of had like a republishing of it or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Will Smith got a hold of it, and he talked about it, and all these other people started talking about it. And
I wonder if when it was first released, if it was released in Portuguese.
Possibly.
And then they maybe put it in English.
But I think even then they had it in a lot of languages. And it just wasn't really doing that well. But he's an amazing writer.
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell by that book. Like his style of writing is very special. But it's interesting how there's that kind of like dormant phase.
Right.
So what I equate that to, it's kind of like the seed. The seed could be in the ground for years and years and years before the conditions are just right for it to...
Right.
No one knew who the heck Obama was.
Yeah. But
he was working on his public speaking and his relationship building and his articulation and this and that. And then all of a sudden, he's the president. And that's with a lot of people. Like, oh, wow. Like overnight success.
Yeah.
In 1 year, you blew up. Yeah. But the 20 years before, I was perfecting my craft and never knew if I would. What's that? Matt Rife, that comedian.
Yes.
He said he was about to quit. He's like one of the biggest comics right now.
Yep.
A couple of his videos went like he hated TikTok, and someone said if you're gonna make content, you might as well post it on TikTok too.
Yeah. Right.
He made a TikTok account. He posted a few things. Nothing hit. I told you it was stupid. He posted one more, and he was just like, "I'm gonna quit comedy," and then But he had been perfecting. He has this comedy style where he banters back and forth with people and
Yeah.
asks them questions and just right off the dome. It's super talented.
Yeah.
But none of us would know his name if he didn't just do that one more and then a video went viral. Like
Yeah.
no one would know his talent because he would only be known by the few thousand people who saw him live. You know?
Right. Yeah.
And now it's like millions of people watch him on repeat all the time.
Yeah. We had Greg Reed. Do you know Greg Reed?
He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah. We had Greg
I
in.
was
and-
with him. I'm with him often. I was with him like a couple weeks ago.
Nice. And Greg wrote 2 Feet from Gold, which is
3 feet from
3 feet from gold. I always say 2 feet. He wrote 3 feet from gold.
Yeah.
And the whole concept of that, if you guys don't know, is a lot of people give up. In the book, it's about a gold miner who's, well, I mean, do you know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's a gold miner who had been mining gold, made a lot of money. He hit a rock where it was just like, the gold had ended. And so he was just like, I'm done. That's all the gold that's going to be here. And he sells all of the equipment and land, I think, or whatever it was, to a passerby. Some dude just walking by is like, for $1,000, you can have all my picks and axes and wheelbarrows. And a great deal, but the guy's not going to take it with him,
Yeah.
And all the guy does is he goes and he hires a surveyor. And he's like, oh, okay, so this was the gold vein. This was like rock that interrupted the vein. But if you go 3 feet through this rock, the gold vein will continue. And so as he continued, that was all the gold that fills Fort Knox. A lot of it fills Fort Knox to this day, but it was like
Damn.
millions. And today it would be like billions of dollars worth of gold.
Yeah.
And that guy went on to be an insurance salesman. The guy who sold it for $1,000 when
Yeah.
he could have just been set for the rest of his life.
Forever. Damn.
But and the moral of that story is most of us quit 3 feet from gold, like, steps from the opportunity. If they would have just been persistent on that one thing. So many people, they go this way and then they go this way and then they go this way and they keep trying new things,
Right.
or they try multiple things at the same time.
Yep.
But if you could just focus on one thing and put a lot of effort into it, that one thing can be successful.
Yeah.
Any business can be anyone can turn one business into a multi-million or even billion-dollar business, but you can't do that with 4 things at the same time. And so the only commonality between successful people, it's not IQ, it's not how you were raised, who your parents were, how much money you have, where you grew up, none of that.
Yep.
The only commonality is they kept trying longer than other people. It was just persistence.
Right.
He wrote another book called Stickability.
Yep.
And Stickability was like the new age kind of 3 feet from gold or Think and Grow Rich. And he interviewed all these successful people, same as they did in the Think and Grow Rich. And the one thing that was consistent amongst all of them is just stickability, persistence.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
That's it. IQ doesn't matter. Like, matter of fact, a lot of smart people have analysis paralysis. They
Yes.
overthink everything.
Yeah.
They got good at school, which is one version of intelligence. And they got so good at it that it's like, if you don't give me the exact instructions for me to follow to a T, I don't know what to do. Where if you're trying to solve problems, no one's giving you the instructions or else the problem will be solved.
Right.
You have to figure it out how to solve this problem.
Right.
And that's what creates the invention or the idea or the business. It's Steve Jobs saying, I want one button on this phone.
Yes.
And now we all have iPhones with like no actual physical buttons on the front, but
Yeah.
at the time it was like, no, more buttons are better.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to have no button. What are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, seeing the world different and thinking bigger. I mean, that's why this podcast is called Thinking Bigger, because most people, we naturally have this narrow, focus on things that really have nothing to do with how we live our lives. I look at how most people live their lives, and they go to a job that they don't like just so they can pay bills to go live in a house that they don't even spend time in because they're either sleeping or they're at work or driving to work.
Yeah.
To pay for a car to impress somebody they don't even like, to maybe go on like 1 or 2 vacations a year, maybe, and
you most of the time working on that whole vacation.
yeah,
Yeah, that was drilled into my head at a young age by watching Fight Club. Have you seen Fight Club?
of course.
Yeah. We work jobs that we hate to buy things we don't need to impress people we don't like. And that whole movie, because I was ambitious as a young person, like, oh, if I work hard, I'll be able to buy the cool car and the this and that and, have the things and the clothes and this. And it was like, holy shit. that completely changed my whole paradigm. Like,
Yeah.
what is the end goal? Like, you know?
Yeah.
And so that movie was such an impact on me. I remember like I couldn't produce words for like 3 days after watching that movie. I didn't say one word. And it was just like a complete switch because, you know, growing up in school, it's like, yeah, you're going to go to school and then maybe you go to college.
Yeah, your
you get this
happiness is
job,
next.
So you can
You're
buy.
going to be there.
You know, so you can buy the house that you'll live in, and then you can buy the furniture and the car. And this completely flipped it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did that change the way you looked at the world? I mean, it's kind of like that. All of a sudden you're realizing like, oh, I'm a rat in this rat race.
Yeah,
right?
It was a double whammy. It made me less attached to material things. And at the same time, if you notice in the movie, they do all types of different things to get money so they don't have to work.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so I need income, but the type of income that you want to eventually have is passive income. So I need to work to buy assets versus liabilities. And so everything I buy now, I think of a way to turn it into an asset for the most part. So like with the cars, it's like, yes, I want to drive a McLaren, a Lamborghini, a Bentley, a Maybach, the Slingshot, like all the fun cars. I want that. Yeah. But could it pay for itself? Could it, you know, could I buy something that could appreciate? Yeah. You know, like I like watches. Used to be into my watches in my 20s. Haven't bought a watch since. Yeah. I haven't bought one watch in my 30s. None of it. But if I did buy a watch now, it'd be one that I would think could appreciate. Yeah. Or the way my brain works is like, will it appreciate? Can I flip it? Or can I rent it out? Yeah. You know what I mean? If I could rent out the watch and have interest on it or something like that. That's the way my brain works. So right now I'm in the process of buying an island in Belize. I don't want the island just to visit it 2 weeks, you know, this part of the year and 2 weeks this part of the year. Like, no, this thing needs to generate income to at the very least pay for itself.
We got to connect him with Billy. Yeah. You know, Billy McFarland, Fire Festival dude.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we went out to New York and interviewed him. And,
really?
Yeah. He's interesting dude, but
what's he up to?
He's putting on Fire Festival, dude.
Is he going to do it?
Yeah, he's doing. I mean, they did the first one, which obviously failed, but yeah, Billy's whole thing is like, I want to.
But he hasn't done one since the big failure, right?
No, but I connected him with somebody who's helping him fund. I mean, it was just such a weird like way all of that worked out. Billy,
you know what's crazy? That's been brought up in conversation, and people are like, "There's no way anyone will ever trust him again." Yeah, I think that if his energy's in the right place, if he's learned, you know, if he's grown and he's learned from his mistake, yeah, I think people will still back him on that.
Yeah, and I mean his reputation. But see, but here's the thing, right? I was listening to Grant Cardone in an interview yesterday. He was being interviewed by, I can't remember who it was, but his whole point was like, he knew this guy in his hometown that would always go to this bar and he would just fight every weekend. And he wasn't even good at fighting. This guy would get his ass kicked, right? But everybody, because this guy would go out and fight every weekend, they just knew. Eventually, nobody wanted to fight him, and everybody knew who this guy was. He built this brand, and it's that whole, there's no such thing as bad PR. You know, like Billy fucked up and lost all of his credibility. However, he built a massive brand, and there's a small group of people that will bet on that, right?
And people still, when they see what his dream was, even though the dream didn't have it, people still believe in that dream. Like, it's a great idea. Yeah. Like, I would do something similar to what he did. I'd probably do it on a much smaller level, but like this island I'm buying in Belize is nothing like what he was trying to do, but I'm going to actually own the island. So, you know, it's not something where thousands of people can go to. It's a couple acres or whatever. Yeah. But you know, that is kind of motivation to do something similar to what he did, and then that may lead to the bigger island. I'm also looking at like Costa Rica. I want to buy something with a waterfall on hundreds of acres. My friend Regan Helier has 600 acres, and I just found one with 632 acres that has some waterfalls on it.
Got to one-up him.
There's another one that has like 150 acres, but it has like 7 farms, and the property line goes to the base of the tallest waterfall in Costa Rica. Wow. And so that one is beautiful.
And I mean, 100, even 50 acres is a lot of land.
But yeah, with Regan, I did come up with the number 600 just because there's a 600. Yeah. And so when I saw one with 632, I was like, this basically is exact criteria. This might be the one. So who knows? But she's killing it. Regan is killing it. If you could ever get a chance to get her on your podcast, I mean, she's on all over Mind Valley and everything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I've known her for many years, good friend of mine, and she's with a relationship with this guy, Wampa. and Wampa's a Brazilian guy, and they're just both crushing it. They're 600 acres. They call it the Nest, and they do these retreats.
Nice. Do they do like the ayahuasca stuff down there, or is it
that.
okay?
Yeah, they do that and a whole bunch of other stuff. But you want to talk about a girl learning to manifest. A girl
Yeah.
who was an introvert, who had been in abusive relationships, who had $8.70 when she came to America.
Wow.
To create this multi-million-dollar empire of influencing people all over the world. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, anybody can do it. That's really cool.
And thank God she got exposed to that. Like, she had a mentor that exposed and taught her how to do it and got her to be consistent.
Well, let's talk about mentors, right? Like, the reason why I built this business and the podcast, and, you know, it's always been constant mentorship. Do you have any mentors that have helped you get to where you are?
You know, I didn't. I've been asked that, and I was kind of in shock because I preach mentorship left and right, and no one had asked me that, and I was just like, I can't think of one actual human being that was a mentor. I don't know where the motivation came from, but as I got motivated, of course, I started reading books and watching videos, and Tony Robbins was a big influence on me, and Brian Tracy was a big influence.
Yeah.
And, you know, I read books by like John Maxwell and just even real estate books, Rolf DeRuse and Gary Keller. But in person, I didn't have a lot. Like, now I'm really close with like Greg Reed, and I'm intertwined in his circle. So I got friends like Greg and Nick Halleck and Brian Sadorsky, who's, you know, a billionaire real estate guy. And so a lot of these people I kind of look at as, you know, but we're also kind of mentors for each other. So a lot of them,
the mastermind principle.
Yeah, a lot of them who are crushing it in this area. I'm crushing it in something over here that, you know, they'll ask me for advice on for different things. So we're kind of like, mentors to each other or like masterminds. But I feel like maybe if I did have that mentor, I would have excelled a lot faster.
Well, it's funny that you brought up reading because we had a couple guests that have talked about like how reading is so important. But do you know who Freeway Rick Ross is? The drug dealer.
Yeah, original Rick Ross.
Yes,
the real
Freeway Rick Ross.
Who tried to sue the rapper Rick Ross, and he lost that in court.
Yeah,
but yeah, Freeway Rick Ross. I mean, he understood like so much, and it was kind of like he had goals and he put together a business. Now, of course, it was an illegal business. It was the drug trade.
Yeah.
But what I respect about him is there wasn't as much violence in the trade. He was anti-violence. He would not retaliate, even though he had the resources and the people to retaliate to where he could just annihilate other other drug gangs and people who would try to challenge him. He would just let that stuff go. He's like, no, I'm trying to sleep good at night. I'm trying to, you know, grow this business.
Well, he was sitting right here like a month and a half ago. He was on the podcast, and one thing that he said about reading, when I asked him about mentorship and he brought up reading, and he was like, man, because he didn't know how to read when he went into prison. He had no idea how to read. He taught himself how to read through like newspapers and then eventually started reading books. And he was like, man, I better not tell anybody about this reading stuff. It's like a cheat code. He's like, it took this person that wrote this book 40 years to learn this, and I get to read it in like a day. I mean, that's so you did have mentors just in written form.
No, 100%. And that's the whole thing. Like, there's no excuses. Oh, there's no one in my neighborhood that's ever done what I want to do. Yeah, but there's probably someone in the world who has the skills, who took 40 years of perfected that skills and put it in a book to save you 40 years. Yeah. And you can learn it all by reading that book. 100%.
Yeah. It's just crazy the way he broke it down. When he said that, I remember sitting like being like, oh my God, like, why have I not spent, because I used to, when I was a kid, dude, I read so much, 2 books a day. Sometimes I would just read for 8 hours in a day. Like, I don't know, you know, maybe phones and technology kind of took that away, but, you know, it's like, fuck. Like,
well, it's taken it away, but it's also enhanced it because you could throw an audiobook on,
right? Which
a lot of them you can find for free on YouTube, or at least a complete breakdown of the book on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, I remember whenever I wanted to get one of my mentors, Brian Sadorsky, who he says every time he speaks, he talks about Think and Grow Rich and how he was exposed to it, and he failed 5th grade, and then it took him 3 years to graduate 12th grade. Damn. And so he's like, I don't know, 19 years old, 20 years old when he's graduating high school, right? So they always told him he's a failure. He's going to be stupid. He's never going to amount to nothing, never going to have money. but he got exposed to the Think and Grow Rich practices, did the Junior Achievements, which is based on that. And he did well as a team leader, and that gave him the confidence. And then, now he's a billionaire. But he's always talking about how every time he reads Think and Grow Rich, he makes $1 million. And he's read it at least 500 times. And then people are like, oh, so you're worth 500 million? He's like, no, I'm worth a lot more than that, but I make at least $1 million every time I read the book. And so, but he kept talking to me about a different book, Maximum Achievement. And so I remember I just went on YouTube, and they had the whole book kind of broken down into like a 45-minute breakdown of the highlights of the book. And I learned a lot just from listening to that YouTube video.
Yeah.
He kept bringing it up. I hadn't read the whole book yet. And I said, okay, if you could recommend one book to your grandson, he has one grandson that's super ambitious, and I've hung out with him before. We went and see the Razor House, and
I was hoping
he would buy it, and then I could like take care of it. The one Alicia Keys owns.
Yeah, that's what.
It's
and
my dream home.
Swizz Beats, right? Yeah,
Swizz Beats. Yeah, they're married. And so we're in that house, and he hated it. I'm in love with this. It's the house that Iron Man, which most of the Iron Man house is CGI.
Who was the agent that sold that house? He was a client.
Yeah, the guy who owns it lives in Florida, but the agent who owns it or who sold it. I talked to him.
He was a customer of
mine. I
mine.
was talking to him from time to time.
Oh, I can't remember his name.
His name is in my phone. I know I have it saved in there. But
yeah, anyway, sorry.
Anyway, he said, I said, if you could recommend one book to your grandson, would it be Think and Grow Rich or Maximum Achievement? And he said Maximum Achievement.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm like,
is it by Napoleon Hill?
No, Maximum Achievement is by Brian Tracy, who's also a San Diegan dude.
Yeah.
Who he's become friends with, both named Brian.
So what's the difference? What's
Maximum Achievement? It's more modern. It's broken down in more easier to understand terms.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of science that proves all the stuff that back then it was kind of woo-woo.
Yeah.
You told people like the most important thing to be successful is desire. What? Like first time I read the book, I put it down and I was like, this is everyone's raving about this book. I think I was 24 when I first read it.
Yeah.
I was like, this book makes no sense. I was very practical, logical. Like, give me instructions on what to go do. And another chapter is about faith. Like, faith, what does that even mean? Like,
right.
But later on, when I saw The Secret, and they actually said, frequency. You could tune into a country station and you'll never hear hip hop.
Right.
You can tune into they can measure your brainwaves. They can put you under whatever they got that measured brainwaves, CAT scans, and those little things that connect your. And you could pretend like you can imagine that you're doing your sport. They did this to Olympians.
Yep.
And most Olympians do this regularly. They imagine themselves winning. They, fighters do it. They imagine their hand being raised.
Yeah. Conor McGregor talking about, his fight against, I think it was Aldo, that he predicted exactly how it would happen, and it did.
He sent a text to Hans Mollenkamp saying exactly what he was going to do.
Damn.
And like Hans showed it on his story. I remember seeing that. He was like, first round. Right hook or whatever it was, and he was just like within 1 minute, something
crazy.
Like that. And so when they broke it down, like you can't see radio waves, you can't see microwaves, but it's cooking your food.
Can't see electricity right now, can you?
But once they break it down to the science that your thoughts go out and they interact with all these other frequencies of the universe, and they're creating things, just like they're creating a cooked burrito that was once frozen, just like they're creating hip hop music on this channel,
Yeah.
You can create all of that through the frequency. So once there was science behind it, I went back and read Think and Grow Rich, and it was life-changing. But Maximum Achievement, it breaks it down in very tangible steps and exercises of what you can do on the spot.
Okay.
And so it's one of my favorite books now.
I'm going to order this book right after we get done with this.
I think so many people have read multiple Brian Tracy books, and like there was this guy who had a very successful podcast. Lots of people were on his page, commenting, and he had a pretty big Instagram following. And he was talking about a book he read by Brian Tracy, and I recommended Maximum Achievement, and he DM'd me back right away. He's like, you recommend that? I was like, you've been reading Brian Tracy books and you haven't read this one? This is like, from what I understand,
hidden gem. Then that's good.
I haven't read all of his books, but from what I understand, it's the Holy Grail.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna read it. Well, cool, Jason. Thank you so much for coming down. I
Thanks
appreciate it.
for having me,
We're
man.
gonna have to do a round two now that we normally I don't interview people I don't like know that
Yeah.
well, and we, you know, I mean, we knew each other kind of, but
Yeah.
but now that we know each other, we're gonna have to do another one, and we'll go deep on this stuff now that I know kind of where we can go with
man.
it.
So many topics and stuff that we could have got into, but we
Yeah.
could save it for part 2.
Yeah, cool.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, when is your next epic fighting event?
Next Epic Fighting event is February 23rd. And if you're listening to this and you ever want to get tickets to go to Epic Fighting, just go to epicfighting.com. It's all there. Or if the Instagram is just at Epic Fighting. You'll
Okay.
see all the updates on the stories and stuff like that. And if you want to follow me, it's Jason O. Stewart, Stewart. And I have all of my businesses on my profile, from Stewart Estates Real Estate to Epic Exotics, car rentals and sales, to the fighting, which is Epic Fighting. So it's all, and I share everything on the daily on my story. So
Yeah,
you'll always
yeah.
see what's going on.
Yeah, very open book. I love it. Guys, go to the description of this, wherever you're listening to this or watching. We're going to put all of his links in the description. Follow him. Go support Epic Fighting, please. February 28th, you said?
February 23rd.
February 23rd. I will be there as long as I'm in town. I will be at your next event, and I'll go support because, I really want to be there for
They're
that.
really exciting. You'll enjoy it.
Cool. I'm
I
excited.
can never explain it, but it's the same reaction to everyone who goes the first time. Holy crap, I had no idea it was like this. I was like, you can't put this into words. Do you agree? And they're always like, yeah. People told me it was fun. People told me the energy was this and that. But once you're there, you're like, oh, okay. I would have never understood it until I came. So we built something that's, I think, very unique, and it's very life-changing. And how we talk about energy, the energy there is just really intense. It vibrates through your body in a good way.
It's epic.
Super epic.
Dude, thanks for coming down. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.